ready.
Yes, hi, Taniyasu here. And I'm here, like I said, with Mr. Hayward Evans and Mr. Clyde Perfect. We are all organizing with the Martin Luther King Commemoration Committee, organizing some awesome events commemorating and continuing the work that began from the historic March on Washington 60 years ago. Mr. Perfect is helping me to coordinate with other members this youth event that's a youth and opportunity fair. And I just wanted everything that he's saying is so exciting, but let's back up, because first of all, Mr. Perfect actually was at this event 60 years ago. So I would love to hear more about how you got there and how it was to be there, and then let's come up through the years to now and talk to us about how you are now connecting with the youth with this opportunity fair and gonna give them so much awesome information about great career starts that they can start now.
Okay, Tana. Let me first start by saying August the 28th, 1963, I did make the March on Washington with Dr. King, but let me backtrack to say how we got there. And this is a journey that I will never, ever forget, simply because the journey was very tedious and we had to make sure that we were traveling in the right directions and making stops that we knew that were not going to be harmful to the group that left with us. We had 10 individuals. Reverend Dr. Reverend Vaughn, Joseph Vaughn, was the pastor and minister of St. Mark Missionary Baptist Church. My uncle Percy Murphy Griffin, who was a tremendous advocate of social justice, was the pastor of St. John's Baptist Church in Plaquemine Parish. Now, you know, Plaquemine Parish was very, very aggressive during that days because he initiated a lot of protests in that area as well as New Orleans. I was born and raised in New Orleans and back in 1942. I am currently 81 years of age, so they planned this event to go to Washington, D.C., and it so happened that Reverend Vaughn had a bus that the church owned back then. So this is how we travel. But now, mind you this, we had to know where to go, when to stop driving. Driving through the South was very, very hectic and dangerous because during that time, you could not travel. Black folks couldn't travel after dark in those country towns. So we had to have what they call a green book. Remember, that green book was like a Bible to us. It told us exactly what motels we had to go to, what restaurants we could go to, even gas stations that we could get gas and stuff to continue the journey. I want to say one thing, and this may be mind-blowing, because if you travel on a gravel road, Black folks had to pull over and let the white drivers go ahead of them simply because you're kicking rocks on these gravel roads. A lot of folks didn't know that. But when you had a driver behind you, you had to pull over and let that white driver get in front of you. He could kick all the rocks he wanted to kick. You see, but those were things that people didn't understand.
Mr. Perfect. Okay, hold on. Right, hold that thought. This might turn into some other. How much time you got today? We're gonna have to come back. But okay, did you see the news recently or last week? There was an incident down in Alabama on a boat dock with a boat captain being attacked by some white folks, and the black folks jumped in. I mean, like, seeing that, did that like give you some flashbacks to the times when you lived in?
Yes.
Montgomery, Alabama.
Right. It definitely, give you a flashback. But let me just say this. And one of the things, to get off of that, I don't like using the word picnic anymore, because when they had picnics, and I'm going to tell you this, if you travel into North Louisiana, up around the Ruston area, Monroe, Ruston area, there is a big tree where they used to hang us. And
It's
when
there?
It's
still there?
The tree is still there.
Oh my God.
The tree is still there. But the fact is, we didn't, when they used the word or the term picnic, they rejoiced when they hung one of us. That was a rejoicing moment for them, and which is why I don't like using the term picnics, because that's what happened. And it brings back memories of what transpired back then. You see.
They would just go pick somebody and then kill them.
Right. Somebody that was, they classified out of line, they would hang, and they would rejoice, having food, drinks. It was a festive event.
We've seen the pictures and the postcards and getting trophies, making weird trophies and stuff they would do. Yes. So it's apparent to me that that mentality, that mob mentality, is still alive and well.
Right. And so this is why, you see, my uncle Percy Murphy Griffin got me involved to start off in 1957, voter registration. Black folks in the South could not vote unless they took a test, a literacy test. And me, as a sophomore in high school back then, had to go in the neighborhood to teach these Black people how to take a literacy test in order for them to exercise their franchise rights.
Yes.
And we, my sister and I, had a territory that we had where there was nothing but Black folks, because it was so segregated.
Yeah.
Back then. Everything was segregated back in the South. Period. Jim Crow laws were definitely in place.
Wow.
You see, when we talk about Rosa Parks ain't had nothing on us, because we did some of the things that Rosa Parks was recognized for doing, but we did them long before Rosa Parks. But she was recognized at that time in Montgomery. So there was so much stuff going on back in the days, and I became an activist back in 1957. I became a member of CORE, Congress of Racial Equality. I met Dr. Roy Wilkins at Dillard University. That's when I got involved in the NAACP back then. I was a member of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. At that time, I met John Lewis because we were doing the Freedom Rides, but John Lewis was just like me and Hayward, just,
Y'all was
and he was
kids.
not, we were associates, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Well, Hayward now closer than just associates, but I'm just saying, I knew him, but I didn't know he was going to become what he became, you
Mhm.
see. But we crossed paths during that era, so I was involved in the civil rights movement back then. We were doing protesting because our mothers could go to Walmart, Woolworth, and not Walmart, I don't shop at Walmart, but Woolworth and McCrory's, they can buy, but they couldn't sit at the counter to eat. And
Yes.
we protested, we marched, we rallied. I don't know, I've been thrown in jail, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 times, but because of protests. I was bitten by a dog. I was hit in the head on my left side with a billet by a police officer and fractured my skull. So I've been there, done that.
Wow.
You see, so when the eventual march, and I know James Farmer, who was president of CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, we all, and Roy Wilkins and the NAACP and so forth, we all got together and we decided that we were going to make that march to Washington, which actually Reverend Vaughn, Percy Griffin, and those guys were all involved and interested in making that move to Washington, D.C. We did that. We had to watch where we stopped, what we did, because at that time, traveling through the South, going to Washington, D.C. was a journey because you had to know exactly what you were doing. And that's where that Green Book came in handy, because it was like a Bible to Black folks to let them know this is you know where to go, because if you didn't go where the Green Book said go, you may get stuck in some area that would be dangerous to you. And they were killing Black folks. It was no big thing to kill a Black man.
It still doesn't seem to be, I'm sad to say, by certain folks especially,
Right. But back in those days, it was no big thing, and everything was segregated, so segregated, even when you took a Greyhound bus to go from point A to point B and you made your stops, you couldn't go in Greyhound to eat. You had to order your food outside, and they would serve it to you outside. And now I'm going to say this. I remember one incident that I was in the military, and we were heading to Fort Benning, Georgia, and we stopped in Opelika, Alabama, and we were supposed to eat in this restaurant in Opelika, Alabama. And when we got there, now we were close to Georgia, but when we got there, the manager of the restaurant says, we can feed you guys outside, but we cannot let you guys come in to eat in the restaurant. Well, we had one guy, Steve Geritano, and he was the one that had the pass and everything for us. And they got together, the white guys got together and said, if they can't eat in there, then we won't eat in. We won't eat at all. In Opelika, Alabama, I distinctly remember that because, did we feel bad? Hell yeah, we felt bad. But what did we do? We went to the state liquor store and got some corn liquor, and we all You know, but that was an experience that, you know, you think about those types of things. So I was definitely involved in the civil rights movement, and I wanted to see change made because I want to, everything was segregated.
I see you still want change made. So we're gonna
Oh.
I see how you went out. You was teaching those folks how to be their literacy tester to vote. But now you're full circle and coming back and working with the youth at this event on Saturday, September 26th, and bringing them information about opportunities, lucrative opportunities. We are responding also with this event to the recent Supreme Court ruling regarding affirmative action and young folks trying to get into school. So and what we've been talking about at this fair, this opportunity fair, is from apprenticeships to schools to just go ahead and I'm just at maritime things that some occupations that we probably haven't traditionally had our young folks look into. But what the thing about these is that 4-year college is not required, and most oftentimes getting in at that entry level and working your way up, you have the potential to make more money than if you were a college graduate. So go ahead and tell us more about some of these organizations and opportunities.
Okay, what I have done, and I've been a part of labor for the last 56 years. When I started with the Aerospace Union, I'm on the board right now, the Martin Luther King County Labor Council, and on several other boards. But here is the most important thing. I have been working vigorously in trying to get these young Black young men and women involved in the trades, because I know that there are so many obstacles that have prevented us from elevating or moving forward. One, we have to look at economics. We have to look at what our parents are able to do to provide. And one of the things I look at is that we have a large number of single parent homes. And I'm looking at the fact that it has been difficult for mothers out here that's working 2 and 3 jobs trying to provide for their kids and stuff like that, to really get that involved in the education as well. But I also look at the fact that a lot of mothers are involved in their child's education. But I look at also that we have hit a hard spot of economics where we can't afford to send our kids to these institutions of higher learning so that they can be ready to attack the world once they've gotten out of school. So there are obstacles that we have faced, and we have faced these obstacles for years and years. My father died when I was very young, and my mother had to raise 4 kids. And trust me, we all, once we reached a certain age, all worked to help provide just to live, to be able to live. We had to provide our clothes for ourselves and lunch monies. See, these kids have it made today, a lot more so than we did, because we had to catch a metro bus to go to school. We had to pay for our lunches. These are things that they got the buses picking them up today. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it has been difficult for us throughout the history of America. And then they want to eliminate Black history when Black history is a part of history. You can't do that. But on the other hand, we have struggled. Black folks have struggled. And when we look at the economics of this country, and we look at white folks making a minimum of 109,000 a year, whereas we are making 42,000 a year on, so there is a disparity there, a big time disparity there where, so here we are. And what I've been trying to do is if you cannot afford to go to college, or if you see yourself as, hey, I'm not really college material, I'd rather be able to do this or that or whatever, I would love to see you get into a profession where it is paying good monies so that your next generation, your kids, you can afford to not only house them, you can afford to feed them, you can afford to clothe them, and you can afford to give them a good life. If they so choose to go to college, you can afford to do that as well. So these are the things that I'm looking at to make a difference. And I'm hoping that we can get as many young men and women involved in the trade so that they can at least recognize and look at the fact that, hey, I'm making this kind of money. I can afford to buy me a home. And these are things that I'm looking at, and I'm trying to get these young folks involved. Some of the things I talked to Greg Davis and Eddie Grinnell, which is a part of Reback, that's Rainier Beach, and they are dealing with Rainier Beach High School as well. Of these young folks that are coming out of high school that either cannot afford to go to college or they have no direction as to what they want to do. So they are pulling these young kids into the trades. I have Vince O'Halloran of the Maritime. And a lot of times, a lot of us don't realize that the Maritime is a trade.
Oh, yeah. It didn't stop after chattel slavery.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a trade and a lot. And when I talk to Vince, he says, Claude, the minimum wage, the minimum that they can make per year is $60,000 minimum. You understand? And that's deckhand. You see what I'm saying? So, and we're not going to talk about the maximum because I explained that and I mentioned that the other day at the Eddie Rice show that, hey, we can, and they have these schools that train these young folks in ballot that we don't know nothing about, but I want to make sure that they're introduced to this type of schooling so that they can better themselves. You understand? So whatever it takes. I also have John Birchie. Now we're going to talk about the building trades and the labor force and all the other. Now, do you know that for the next 55 plus years, they are building within the city, county, and state. So we have the trades that will be in effect for the next 55 plus years. So we would love to have, they got employment until they retire, and then there will be more and more trades, employment and stuff in the future. I have Tony Butler that will be there with IBW 46, International Electrical Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Now, here's something that Tony has done, and I got this one kid, the kid called me yesterday, and he mentioned, but what they are doing is that they are having these kids work with installers to learn the trade before they take the apprentice, the pre-apprenticeship tests.
Mhm.
They want these kids to learn from these experienced folks so you have a better knowledge when you take the test. And him and I talked, and these kids have to have, they don't have to be experts in algebra, but have some knowledge of, because algebra plays a major part in the electrical trades.
Mhm.
Okay, now they are willing to hire these kids at $20 an hour to start. You understand? With no knowledge of nothing. But this kid started work this morning. He's supposed to call me later this afternoon to let me know how everything went. But it's like, these are things that they're trying to do to help us, help the Black community. So I applaud Tony for that. I have Tony Clay of Abbott's Construction. He will be there to talk to the young folks about the construction work. And they will all have information for these young folks, applications, you name it. They will be providing that information for these young folks. Also, Jerry Jordan from PAC. He's the director of PAC. And that's basically pre-apprenticeship construction training program. So there will be several of these folks there to talk to these young folks, bringing materials for these young folks, letting them know what they are getting into, letting them know that these are jobs that will create and professional jobs.
Yes.
So
Careers.
that career positions. And, I don't want to use this, but I know when I talked to Tony of IBEW, these line workers are making $98 an hour. That's at $230,000 a year. That's with no overtime. You understand?
Yes.
These refrigeration guys, and I had mentioned that earlier, making $17,000 a month. That's a lot of money. That's over $300,000 a year. So we are talking career jobs,
That is
professional
freedom.
jobs.
That speaks to the freedom, the economic freedom. I mean,
Right.
that is, if we're gonna say the continuation of Dr. King's dream was to come on and get that check and get us economic.
Right. And when I was in Washington, DC, as a matter of fact, last year I went to Poor People's Campaign in Washington, DC with Reverend Barber and his group. But when I was in DC back in '63, that was what they talked about, jobs and freedom. You understand? And this is what, and I'm going to tell you this. Donna, we still have obstacles because here we are trying to get into these positions, but we still have obstacles to keep us out because they know that these are good paying professional jobs.
Yes. I wonder if, and then now also, like you were saying, before you all did a lot of your freedom riding and doing things like y'all did train. I feel like we should also be ready to send these young folks, because like you say, they get in there. Will they be able to keep a mentor or like how
Yes, that's what they have been working on.
stay in touch with them to give them support all the way, because they could get out here on a job with people that don't care about them and would love to push them out. So they need to have a number they can call and be like, hey, I'm having problems. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's what they have worked on, and they will have these mentors, and they will have people coming to check on how things are going with them. If there are any problems they're having, whatever the situation may be. And they are making sure that these young folks will go through the training, the apprenticeship, and become journey folks, journey people. And this is when you start looking at 50, 60, 70, 80, $90 an hour job, you know. And these are good paying jobs,
Yeah,
period.
these
Positions.
change lives, especially in the how expensive it is here in Seattle, Washington, and Pacific Northwest. You know, people want to talk about the crime and all this and that, but I'm like, well, how can you talk about crime when you're not talking about poverty? A lot of people
Right.
are doing these things. They don't want to do the thing, but they do need
Right.
to eat. So what are they
They
going to
do.
do if they don't have a good, decent, livable wage job? They
Right.
say so many people that are unhoused, but they're working, but they can't even
Right.
afford a roof over their head.
Right.
So, you know, that's not the American dream. Come on.
No. And that's what we are looking at, the American dream. And we want to be a part of the American dream. We want to be a part of the economic system. We want to make sure that, hey, we are providing and we are putting money back into the economy. You understand? But we
Well, we
want to be
already do. We should be valued. Don't we spend like 3 trillion or something? The last time I looked, it was in the trillions a year.
Yeah.
Just as, you know, African Americans, we spend money. It's not a thing that we don't.
We spend lots of money, but we, you know, and you're right. Well, I want to see these young folks make it in this society and not become a statistic in this society. You know, so that's been my dream. I've been fighting since I was 15 years old in 10th grade. Yeah, back in 1957.
That is
Yeah.
really awesome. That makes me feel good because I was starting to feel a little tired, but now I see.
Yeah, so I've been doing the fight since 1957. It's been over 60 plus years that I've been fighting, you know. And I'm telling you, it's I enjoy what I do to try to help folks.
Well, I sure appreciate it. And I've appreciated working with you through the years with the Martin Luther King organizing
Yeah.
coalition, doing the march and rally that we do for the
Oh
birthday
yeah, absolutely.
celebration. And you know, it's just
Yeah.
always been great. And I'm excited to be working with you, you know, more closely on this project.
Right.
And so we'll end here for now. But I mean, you have a lot to tell. I think we're gonna have to come circle back around and get some more of these stories. This is
Yeah,
just
oh yeah.
the legacy.
Yeah.
We got to do the history because that's the other thing. Other nationalities, we know about all the holocausts and all the different things and how they got reparations, and they're always reminding people, and they're always saying never forget. And do you see, and now they're trying to actually take us out of the actual history books. I mean,
Right. Well, this
never
is
forget. So we have
this
to
is
tell.
yeah, Governor DeSantis from Florida would like to take Black history out of the equation. And it's like, how are you going to take Black history out of the equation when we were a part of history? We were a major part of building this country.
Yeah,
We
this
were a
country
major part of producing free labor so that other folks can make millions of dollars off of our free labor. You know, we were a part of, you know, when we talk about Eli Whitney inventing the cotton gin, no, he didn't. It was a Black man that invented the cotton gin, but he could not.
get a patent. Yes.
You're right.
Oh,
You
all
know,
of the comforts. I mean, when you think of all the comforts of this country, because we were the ones doing the thing, so we would invent a contraption to do the thing for us, so we could go
to make it, yeah. But you get the credit because hey, we could not put our name on the dotted line to say that we invented this product.
Yeah.
No, we couldn't. But
we were a product.
Yeah. You know, so I'm just saying, who built Washington, D.C.? You know, we've had a lot of free labor. So you're going to take us out of the equation? Can't do that.
We're not gonna
Yeah,
let
no.
that happen. All
No.
right.
All right.
Well,
So,
I'm gonna sign off.
one last thing. If you can text me the time that I can tell these folks when we would have a group between 18 and 25, when we can look at that group so that we can have these folks talk to them about the trades.
Oh, yes, they are on the program. You're gonna have that, I believe it's 12 to 1,
Okay,
that all the organizations will be able to speak directly to the
okay.
audience. And then we're gonna break out and have from 1
Break
to,
out.
yeah, then go to the breakout room. And that would be the 1 to 3. And you could actually stay till 5, but 1 to
Yeah.
3 would be the breakout. So 12
Okay,
to 3 is that the massive push on the opportunity fair and the resources.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Perfect. I'm
All
gonna
right, no
stop
problem,
recording
honey.
now.
Okay, and you take care, Tana.